Hi, my name is Bianca, and welcome to my channel, Children of the Wind. So let's talk a little bit about the world ambientation of my comic book. Well, imagine a world that doesn't matter things like how much money you have, you're immigrant, if you're native, your gender, your sexual orientation doesn't matter. Because right now, the social hierarchy is not ruled by white, rigid old men. It's ruled from person that have powers and what kind of powers they have. This is what can make you have power and influence in society or not. Because if you don't have power, you're less than a dog, like you're not even a human. And if you don't have a power, you need to live on the edges. And the edges, it's a place that it's around the territory of the society. You see that the social hierarchy changes a lot, right? In theory, it can look more equal, like anyone can ascend in the social hierarchy in society. Like there's no prejudice of these things that happens in your societies. But I don't believe that you changing the actor on stage, you change the plot. Like, the way that our society works needs exclusion. So, if those persons that is marginalized in your society is not anymore in society of the comics, who is the marginalized persons? Well, people from the edge don't necessarily don't have power. Or not, because if you're born on the edge and don't rise to society, you're still like less than an animal. Any animal is better than you, inclusive, because it's a post-apocalyptic world that ends in apocalypse because like ambiental hell. So imagine like the earth in chaos because we fuck with the nature. And people with power start to burn. Well, people from the old society wants to keep the power. People with power fights with this bunch of motherfuckers. They win and they found the society. So, doesn't matter who you are, but you only staying in society if you have power. Because this is what gives humanity. But you see, like you just take and invert the hierarchy. So, okay, it doesn't matter if you are like a trans woman, you can be on top in society. The privilege was impossible. But you just change the actors. The social structure is still the same. Because the problem is the system, not the persons on the system. And okay, so how it works? Well, society, with all her benevolence, give the opportunity of persons that born in the edges to rise to society. And what means rise? Well, people that live in the edge cannot enter in society, like physical enter. They're not allowed. That is a really clear exclusion. If they try, they will gonna die. But there is a way to enter in society. There is a paradise in the earth if you compare with the edges. And when I talk about it, I say about like everything, like social dynamics, the society. No, imagine a country that is in war. We can think in some examples. And imagine a country that have a really good social structure, like, I don't know, Sweden. Like, every person that lives in a chaotic place wants to go to there. But the only way to immigrate, it's on this ritual called the rise. And basically, it's society very fine if you have power and what kind of power you have. Because depends of the power, you can have a chance to rise to society. It those who rise go to a place to learn how works society, because it's not a place without rules of the edges. And they go to society, but the apprentices follow them. And people from society call these persons like children of the wind, because from the society perspective, the edges is like alive in hell. There is no order, it's just a chaos. There is no social hierarchies, like it's just a bunch of kids that were born there, and they should be grateful for the miracle to live in society. But it's not a benevolence of the society, it's just a way to social control, because they are terrified of powerful powers still have a chance to stand on the border or the edge. Well, why? Why they're so afraid of powers on the edge? Because this wonderful equal society, well, all their hate are on the edge, so people from the society goes and making that a hell. And they are terrified with the idea of a rebellion, of people from the edge organize themselves with power, because the powers are an important balance for the power, the social dynamics of the comic. And that is they are terrified of the edge to do the same with society of they do, especially in genocide, and this is an important part of the plot. Well, but those who ascend, those who rise, live in a better place, right? Well, in theory, it is. It's somewhat a structured society, but it is structured because if you compare with the edge, society makes everything, take everything in the hands to make the edge looks and be alive in hell. Because destroying the edge, destroying the chance of they build a society, they can keep them on control, so they can keep the social dynamics. Because again, we change the hierarchy of society, right? See, in comparison to our world, correct? But the structure is still the same. If the problem is destruction, they need exclusion, they need prejudice, they need society hate the edge. And this is how they can keep the things going on, keeping the social dynamics how they want. Well, the biggest tool is basically genocide. So, people who ascend now, even ascending, even rising, are called children of the wind. Why wind? Because from people from society, they're less than nothing. They're not even humans. They live in a really chaotic and ruleless world. So this is the association with the wind. But that is a little bit, and this makes a lot of sense for me. Wind, it's, well, you can control the wind, but wind is also a huge representation of freedom, and it's a really hateful word in society. But there is an organization on the edge that claimed the name to change the meaning. So privilege was a word for discrimination, and they claims this term for freedom. And this is where the plot go. Our organization from the edge fighting for freedom, trying to break the system built for the society. Built because it's still the same of the old days. You just change the social dynamics, but the system is still the same. And what they want is break the system and give freedom to anyone. But you can imagine society doesn't like it, especially who is in power. So it's a terrorist organization, and we're gonna follow this organization fighting against society. And I want to talk a little bit on the next video about the powers, because again, what gives powers and influence in society is the type of power you have and the intensity. But this is like small details. I think the video is getting too long, so I will end here and we can talk about it in the next. So if you like the word orientation, if you have some criticism, some doubts, some suggestion, just let me know in the comments. Bye!